Lunchtime, 2 Chronicles 32. After these matters and this trustworthiness, Sanherib, sovereign of Ashur, came, and he entered Yehuda and encamped against the cities of defense, and said to break them open to himself. And Hiskiyahu saw that Sanherib had come, and his face set to fight against Yerushalayim. And he took counsel with his rulers and mighty men to stop the water from the springs which were outside the city, and they helped him. And many people were gathered, and they stopped all the springs and the stream that ran through the land, saying, Why should the sovereigns of Ashur come and find much water? And he strengthened himself, and built up all the wall that was broken, and raised it up to the towers, and outside of it another wall, and strengthened Milo, the city of David, and made large numbers of weapons and shields. And he appointed battle officers over the people, and gathered them to him in the open space at the city gate, and spoke to their hearts, saying, Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, nor be cast down before the sovereign of Ashur, nor before all the army that is with you, that is with him. For with us there are more than with him. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is Jehovah, our Elohim, to help us and to fight our battles. And the people leaned on the words of Hiskiyahu, sovereign of Yehuda. After this, Sanherib, the sovereign of Ashur, sent his servants to Yerushalayim, but he himself, in all his power with him against Lachish, to Hiskiyahu, sovereign of Yehuda, and to all Yehuda who were in Yerushalayim, saying, Thus said Sanherib, the sovereign of Ashur, On what are you trusting, that you remain in Yerushalayim under siege? Is Hiskiyahu not persuading you to give yourself over to die by scarcity of food and by thirst, saying, Jehovah our Elohim shall deliver us from the hand of the sovereign of Ashur? Has not Hiskiyahu himself taken away his high places and his slaughter places, and ordered Yehuda and Yerushalayim, saying, Bow yourselves before one slaughter place, and burn incense on it? Do you not know what I and my fathers have done to all the peoples of other lands? Were the mighty ones of the nations of those lands in any way able to deliver their lands out of my hand? Who was there among all the mighty ones of those nations that my fathers put under the ban, that could deliver his people from my hand, that your Elohim should be able to deliver you from my hand? And now, do not let Hiskiyahu deceive you or persuade you like this, and do not believe him. For no mighty one of any nation or reign was able to deliver his people from my hand or the hand of my fathers, much less your Elohim, to deliver you from my hand. And his servants spoke even more against Jehovah, Elohim, and against his servant Hiskiyahu. And he wrote letters to reproach Jehovah, Elohim of Yisrael, and to speak against him, saying, As the mighty ones of the nations of other lands have not delivered their people from my hand, so the Elohim of Hiskiyahu shall not deliver his people from my hand. Then they called out with a loud voice in the language of Yehuda to the people of Yerushalayim who were on the wall, to frighten them and to trouble them in order to capture the city. And they spoke against the Elohim of Yerushalayim, as against the mighty ones of the people of the earth, the work of men's hands. And sovereign Hiskiyahu and the prophet Yeshayahu, son of Amoz, prayed about this and cried out to the heavens. And Jehovah sent a messenger who cut down every mighty brave one, both the leader and the commander in the camp of the sovereign of Ashur, and he returned, shamefaced, to his own land, and went into the house of his mighty one, and there some of his own offspring caused him to fall by the sword. Thus Jehovah saved Hiskiyahu and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sanherib, the sovereign of Ashur, and from the land of all others, and guided them on every side. And many brought gifts to Jehovah at Jerusalem, and presents to Hiskiyahu, sovereign of Yehuda, and he was exalted in the eyes of all nations thereafter. In those days Hiskiyahu was sick and near death, and he prayed to Jehovah, and he spoke to him and appointed a sign for him. However, Hiskiyahu did not repay according to the good done to him, for his heart was lifted up. Therefore wrath came upon him, and upon Yehuda and Jerusalem. Then Hiskiyahu humbled himself for the pride of his heart, he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of Jehovah did not come upon them in the days of Hiskiyahu. And Hiskiyahu had much riches and esteem, and he made himself treasuries for silver and for gold, and for precious stones, and for spices, and for shields, and for all desirable utensils, and storehouses for the harvest of grain and wine and oil, and stalls for all kinds of livestock, and folds for flocks. And he made cities for himself, and possessions of great numbers of flocks and herds, for Elohim gave him much property. And Hiskiyahu himself had stopped the upper outlet of the waters of Gihon, and directed them to the west side of the city of David. And Hiskiyahu prospered in all his work. However, with the envoys of the princes of Babel, whom they sent to ask him about the wonder that was done in the land, Elohim left him, in order to try him, to know all that was in his heart. And the rest of the acts of Hiskiyahu and his loving commitment, see, they are written in the visions of Yeshayahu the prophet, son of Amoz, in the book of the sovereigns of Yehuda in Israel. So Hiskiyahu slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the upper burial sites of the sons of David. And all Yehuda and the inhabitants of Jerusalem esteemed him at his death, and Menashe his son reigned in his place.